Shalom. My name is Alyssa Skripczynski, and I am the Law Enforcement and Community Outreach Coordinator for the United States Attorney's Office for the District of New Mexico. I want to invite you to watch the webinar called Understanding Contemporary Antisemitism. This is part of United Against Hate Week, which focuses on preventing and reducing hate crimes. You'll now be hearing messages from Mayor Timothy Keller and United States Attorney Alexander Obayes.
Greetings from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm Mayor Tim Keller. In our city, we understand that building a safe, more equitable future starts by working together. We know that words matter and that hateful speech can lay the groundwork for conflict, crimes, and human rights violations. We understand that being united does not mean being all the same. We can have differing views, still show respect to our neighbors. Diversity makes us better, and Albuquerque is proof of that. Today, I encourage you to listen to each other, to be intentional with your language, and to use it to bring peace, not harm. This is a time to celebrate our differences, knowing that we have much more in common than what separates us. Enjoy the webinar.
Recent events have drawn division into the center of our conversation. And I'm here this evening because to survive, we need to unite against what divides us. I'm Alex Obayes. I'm the United States Attorney here in the District of New Mexico, and the vocabulary of division permeates the discourse in my profession. Law-abiding versus criminal, punishment versus forgiveness, innocent versus guilty. In this word versus, each of us is called to a fight against a criminal, against a cop, against a lawmaker, against a judge who imposed a lenient sentence, a prosecutor argued for a harsh one, or a defense attorney who helped his client walk free. Opposition feels righteous. It's easy to frame our demands in the negative, stop this or an end that. But these slogans just tell us the responsibility lies in another, and worse, they tell us that our job is done once we've held that other to account. But opposition only feels righteous. Holding to account teaches us to give up on our shared humanity, to fight hate with hate. The King teaches us that darkness cannot drive out darkness. On May 31st of 2013, we lost beautiful 8-year-old Sunny Ray Reza. Sunny died because two groups of adult men, strangers, decided that they couldn't live in peace. A beef over words, a dispute that had nothing to do with her, a death that was avoidable. I know this because after 8 days in trial on October 8th of 2015, I convicted David Candelaria for Sunny's murder. At the time, I was in the Crimes Against Children Unit at the DA's office. At the age of 29, this is 4 years out of law school, it was already my third life conviction for the murder of a child. I say this in sadness, because not 2 weeks later, on October 20th, we took the call for Lily Garcia. Lily died because two adult men, strangers, decided that they couldn't live in peace. A beef over driving, a dispute that had nothing to do with her, a death that was avoidable. And a year ago, we lost a beautiful 11-year-old boy, and he died because two groups of men decided that they could not live in peace. A beef over words, a dispute that had nothing to do with him, and another death that was avoidable. We can blame the men, we can blame the guns, but convicting David Candelaria did not save Lily Garcia. To save our kids, you have to take a long, hard look in the mirror and realize that these children died because men chose opposition. They chose to hold someone to account. These children died because men saw strangers where they should have seen brothers. This approach of holding to account has failed. We can't continue to claim credit for effort alone. It's time to liberate ourselves from a vocabulary which cannot bear the weight of reality. So here's the secret. The versus is an illusion. There is no us, there is no them, there is only we. And we are a single community that has to figure out how we live together in peace. I visited Lily's grave earlier this year. Her picture's on it. She's beautiful. Lily and Sunny with the long brown hair, beautiful brown eyes, and smiles that light up a room. Lily and Sunny look like my daughters. They could have been my daughters. Could have been your daughters. Lily and Sunny are our daughters. I have two daughters and a son, and if you've seen me, You've seen my son. That kid is my twin. And I feel terrible about that. Because of federal criminal defendants, 80% are male, 50% are Latino, and the average age is 38, which means that I am the average federal criminal defendant. I'm the only average federal criminal defendant serving as United States Attorney. Out of 94 of us, there's only 3 other Latinos, and if you're wondering, I'm the youngest. But I'm only 2 years younger than Tony Torres, and right now, not too much younger than David Candelaria when he killed Sonny. Brown hair, brown eyes, light complexion. David and Tony look like me. They look like the man my son will grow up to be. My son could grow up to be them. Your sons could grow up to be them. They are our sons. Our sons killing our daughters. At times, the despair is overwhelming. Don't fall into despair, because we need you. We need each other to survive. Each of us has a responsibility to stand up for others, not through thoughts and prayers, not through sympathy, but through actively seeking peace, to see no strangers, as Valley Core tells us, to stop fighting our present, to start building the future that we deserve, because while there are 2 sides to every argument, not every argument's justified, which means both sides can be wrong. We're not bound by our past, and the future does not belong to us. It belongs to our children and to their children. And so when I say do not fall into despair, what I mean is that we have a responsibility to rise above despair. Sympathy is an easier emotion to access than hope. We can't settle for what is easy. You're here because you care. You're here because you know that we share a responsibility for our future. We owe this world hope and optimism. We owe each other the hard work of love. We need to abandon binary consensus building. We need to rise together as a community. We need to see no strangers. Never miss an opportunity to demonstrate who we can be. That's why you're here today. Be safe, be brave. We do this together.
So we're going to talk about anti-Semitism. Unfortunately, in recent years, we have had a lot of requests for people from law enforcement agencies, from schools, from staff development days with school staff and things like that to understand anti-Semitism, because in many cases, a lot of people don't really understand why it is so in many cases different. And one of the things about Jews that you need to understand, just as Marwa talked about the Muslim community being diverse, so is the Jewish community, and there are many Jews are of many ethnicities. They come from all range of political views, and we are not all the same. We don't think the same. We don't act the same. It is an extremely diverse community, and we need to remember that. We can't, just as with Muslims or anyone else, we can't put them all in a similar basket. So this is a slide just about religions in the United States and the various breakdowns of how many there are. You see that a tiny percentage of the general community are Jews, just 2% in this country, which is concerning based on the next slide that I'm going to show you. And that is, this is the most recent hate crimes figures that have come out from the FBI, and you see on the left all the different religions and the tracked hate crimes against those religions, and on the right you see the hate crimes and hate incidents against Jews, which is a stark reminder of just how important this subject is, and as much as there are, unfortunately, again, as Marwa said, there's hatred against both sides, especially with recent events, but in general, the number of hate crimes against Jews is over 50% in this country. So what exactly is anti-Semitism? This is a definition we call the IRA definition, which has been written in recent years, and that we have asked countries and companies and others to embrace. That anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed toward Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and or their property, towards the Jewish community, institutions, and religious facilities. And I stress that non-Jewish because hate crimes are also the perception. If it's if you think that you're targeting a Muslim, you're targeting a Jew, the perception is important as well. So what I wanted to start with was just a little bit of history. Why people have these attitudes towards Jews, and unfortunately, there have been 2,000 years of accusations, false accusations against Jews doing this or that and the other thing, and I'd like to show you some of those. Starting with Jews being accused of the death of Christ. Jews were not responsible for the death of Christ. Obviously, that was the Romans, but this is something that resurfaces all the time and is one of those unfortunate lies, again, told on a regular basis. Over the centuries, Jews have been accused of just about everything falsely. The idea that Jews would go out and poison wells, or one of the more unique ones is the fact that Jews were spreaders of disease, especially the plague or the Black Death. And as we all have come to know in modern times, that this is not spread even by people. It's spread by fleas on rats and the like. While it killed literally millions of people in Europe in a succession of breakouts, this is just an image on the right of 2,000 Jews that were murdered in Strasbourg because they were accused of spreading the Black Death. One of the most insidious of all is the idea that what we call the blood libel, and this is when Jews have been accused of kidnapping Aryan children and using their blood in the preparation of matzah for the Passover holiday. This accusation goes back probably over 1,000 years and has resurfaced all over the world, but it resurfaced in Europe. And even in recent times, there was a Facebook page just a couple of years ago where an artist on Facebook posted his works, again, various images showing Jews killing an Aryan child, draining their blood. So this is one of the most insidious, and unfortunately there are variations of this that occur all the time. Things like Jews being accused of harvesting the organs of Palestinians or others, even when you'll find that, for example, Israel is many times the first country that steps forward in the case of earthquakes and other natural disasters, and will send field hospitals and things like that to these devastated countries, and Jews are accused. Well, they're going to actually go to those that are dying, take their organs, use them again. It's really horrific stuff, and unfortunately, just in the last couple of years, it continues to resurface. And of course, we've got all kinds of online promotion of this type of lie as well. In more recent years, there is something that surfaced called the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. This was actually a hoax which was started being circulated in Russia at the turn of the 20th century and spread all over Europe, eventually to America. This was one that was distributed in this country in Chicago in the 1930s, but essentially claiming that Jews have a goal to control everything in the world, whether it's the financial system, the political system, sporting events, anything that they you can think of that Jews are accused of planning to control. And unfortunately, again, this goes on still. You can find all these things spread all over the internet in multi-forms. So let's get to some contemporary manifestations of anti-Semitism. With COVID, this was a very big one. This brought up a lot of unfortunate stereotypes. You see the one in the center is interesting because it was created, an image that was created to resemble a CDC warning, although it's obviously fake, but it says, and this was distributed early on in 2020, and said, well, if you get COVID, make sure you go to synagogues, make sure you go to mosques, make sure you go to diverse communities and spread the disease as much as possible. On the right, you see one that says, if you get the bug, give a hug, spread the flu to every Jew, and use the play on the word Holocaust for Holocaust. Then the one on the left is an image that's kind of small on the screen here, I'm sure, but it's essentially a scientist who's looking at the COVID cells, and what do they see at the bottom of it? There's a Jew behind it, and unfortunately, this has continued on, still continues on today, blaming Jews for spreading COVID. One of the things that we see a lot of is, especially online, is Holocaust denial. And while this has been around literally since at the end of World War II, it is still spread on a regular basis. It took us from the time we first met with Facebook, not long after they started and became known to people, to about 2020. So essentially, 13, 14 years of meetings with Facebook, and always at the top of the list, why do you allow this Holocaust denial, this fake history to be spread on a regular basis? It took till 2020, but Facebook actually put in rules against Holocaust denial, as many other mainstream platforms have. Unfortunately, online, there are many who follow no rules, and this is still spread continually. And let me tell you that Holocaust deniers are very good at what they do. They are very practiced. They know where they can question the Holocaust, and it's something that people should not be tangling with, because people think they can argue with people like this, and they literally will run circles around them. So Jews have also been accused of the 9/11 attacks and imagery like this, talking about put the pieces together. There's a Jew behind it. The owner of the Twin Towers in New York was a Jewish man who only purchased it a short time before 9/11. So it must have been an inside job, and he was there to collect the insurance, things like that. And this is something that's been spread around in recent years with the start of COVID, but this is a group called the Goyim Defense League, and they put out flyers. Their most successful one was this one here, where they spread it. They put it in baggies and spread it in yards and places like that. They're very careful about how they operate so they don't do illegal things. But they put out these flyers and saying, well, every aspect of COVID is Jewish. The head of the CDC, the heads of the pharmaceutical companies that make the vaccines, other people involved with combating COVID, they're all Jews. And they spread these flyers quite a bit. They drop banners over freeway bridges and things like that. And a lot of these and similar things had a lot to do with the ramping up of anti-Semitic incidents, especially after COVID started in 2020. But they also have real life consequences. And unfortunately, earlier this year, 2 Orthodox Jews were shot on successive days outside synagogues, only a few blocks from my office in West Los Angeles. Fortunately, LAPD was very quick to track down the perpetrator, and what they found was that he was motivated by this particular flyer. He had spread it to his friends. He said that COVID was a false disease, and it was, this whole thing was created by Jews, and he specifically stated that this flyer was his motivation for committing these attacks. And then just about a year ago, we had these freeway banners that were dropped again over Los Angeles. This was the second time by this same group, the Goyim Defense League, and you'll notice that they said this was about the time of the Kanye West controversy, and they said the first banner says honk if you agree with Kanye that about the Jews. And then they had a couple of biblical quotes, which is interesting as well. Now, these are some of the statements that Kanye made and talking about, going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people and so forth. He put up this combination Star of David and swastika, which is one of the things that got him bounced from Twitter for a while. And although he's back on, I don't know if he's used it recently or not. And this also brought up, I mentioned those 2 quotes. These biblical quotes are used to blame Jews. And these are, as I understand it, quotes from Jesus that are in Revelation 2:9 and 3:9, talking about a very specific situation that took place in Asia Minor and congregations that were harassed by apostate Jews as well as the Roman occupiers. And these quotes by Jesus say, but these are not the real Jews, they are the synagogue of Satan. And these quotes have been used time and again over the years to say that the Jews of today are not really the real Jews, and they are the synagogue of Satan. This was also echoed, interestingly enough, by these groups called the Black Hebrew Israelites, who different from Black Hebrews or Black Jews. They are these radical groups that not only supported Kanye's statements, but the videos that were distributed by a player with the at the time the New Jersey Nets, and they actually protested outside the arena that the Nets play in, and they were getting in arguments with Jews and using these same arguments. You aren't the real Jews. You are the synagogue of Satan, and you see the one in the center. Hitler knew who the real Jews were, etc. But they're interesting because this one on the left, they're actually saying that these various groups like themselves are the true descendants of the tribes of Israel, and they migrated how they did it through Africa onto different places in Central and Latin America, and they are the true Israelites. So the last thing I basically want to talk about is if you're familiar with Charlottesville and the what took place in 2017, the torch march that they ran before the big protest the next day, they were chanting, "You will not replace us, Jews will not replace us," and a couple other slogans used by the Nazis. But what they were talking about was something called the replacement theory that believes, as the Pittsburgh synagogue attacker believed, that there is an orchestrated plan by Jews to replace white people by through immigration and breeding the white race out of existence. And this unfortunately has gained steam. Variations of it have made it onto mainstream TV with certain commentators but it is this idea that it's all a plan of the Jews, which is of course false. And various other iterations. This is from Gab, one of the echo chambers of the right. We've also seen anti-Semitism in gaming and things like games that are supposed to be for young kids, like Roblox, one of the most popular constructor games where people are recreating shootings like the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting, or even the Christchurch mosque shooting where 51 Muslims were killed. And unfortunately, we see this repeated in gaming. We see it on TikTok, one of the absolute worst places. And there's a lot more here, which I'm not going to have time to go into. People using the profiles of mass shooters like Brenton Tarrant of the mosque shootings, or some of the anti-Semitic shooters, constantly naming their profiles on TikTok after these. Even on Spotify, mainstream plays, making light of Anne Frank and the Holocaust, things like that. All these mainstream things which really concern us. Even in places like IMDb, the Internet Movie Database, where you get this bogus film that tries to rewrite the history of World War II, then they put a review on the IMDb site, making it sound like the greatest film of World War II in history. A lot of mainstreaming that really concerns us. And archive.org, white supremacists and Nazis are putting their material on archive.org, where they would get it taken off of other sites. They can put it on there. And accelerationism, which is essentially neo-Nazism gone wild. This is the newest thing in anti-Semitism, and this is a danger to all society, because it's a group of Nazis who believe that they need to accomplish their goals by any means necessary. They're the people that are attacking power stations and things like that. A very shadowy group online that we track on a regular basis, but it's very hard. And then one of the things that we do is we have a combat hate workshop that we talk to kids in schools about their social media use, and we talk to them about anti-Semitism, about Islamophobia, about a lot of the hate that against Asians during COVID, and we use simple examples from social media to talk to them about the perils of social media. So we produce this report called Digital Terror and Hate. We've done actually 25 of them. They're self-contained, but they give a lot of this information. It's in the form of an app or a website at digitalhate.net. And then we also produce a pamphlet called Decoding Hate, with a lot of the symbols and things that people may not recognize that are neo-Nazi, white supremacists, et cetera. And you can get that on our website at wiesenthal.com/reports. And with that, I will pass it on.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Father Joe Muth, and I'm a Catholic priest in Baltimore, Maryland. And I appreciate the other two speakers today presenting their information for us. Is very helpful. And it's really giving me hope, because it's one of the reasons why I continue to do this work, and I'm sure why these speakers and their organizations are doing the work that they do too. One of the things we do with our youth in our parish is that every summer we take several local trips. We'll take a van full of teenagers and we'll go to a synagogue, and we'll go to a mosque, and we'll go to a Hindu temple. They're local here in Baltimore. And we call ahead of time, and we meet with the leaders of the mosque, the synagogue, or the temple, and have them meet with our youth and begin a conversation about what they believe, who they are, what their information is, and trying to help the students from our parish understand people from different faith experiences. And the reason we do that is because what has already kind of been said already, that some of the depiction that young people get of Jews and Muslims and Hindus is from the television or from games, and we want them to meet real people and see real buildings and be in real circumstances, so they can meet people. So when they see something depicted on the television or on some game board, that they'll be able to say, well, that's not what happened when we met somebody. They were nice, or they were kind, or they helped us, or they talked to us, and we give them a different perspective than what they might normally see on the television or in some other media. So we try to make that a prominent part of our summertime when we take the youth to some of these different religious institutions. And then, of course, in the same way, we develop relationships. And that's one of the important things that we do. We see this interfaith connection as really a relationship development process, helping our young people to develop relationships with people of another faith and people of another tradition or people of another background, that they begin to see the normalcy of humanity and the difference of humanity from our different religious traditions, but the normalcy of humanity in the way that we see life. And so some of our young people are able to kind of connect with each other along the way. Even when we've done that before, we've been able to help our young people see what the development is of relationships. But we also work with an organization in Baltimore called ICJS, which is the Islamic Christian Jewish Study Group. And we meet with pastors and rabbis and imams, religious leaders, and share our own religious studies and our own histories with each other. And it's a great organization. It helps us to kind of listen to each other from our different perspectives and how we understand what goes on in the world and how we come together, like what's happening now in the Middle East. The ICJS calls us together, and we have conversations about what's going on and how we understand it and what it is we're called to respond to in our own congregations. And so it's a great way for us to kind of understand what's happening in somebody else's world and understanding how something is happening in our world. It's a great a gift that we give to each other in that way. And as you might, the relationship building is so important. In March 15, 2019, when the Christchurch, New Zealand mosque was shot up, and the Al Noor Mosque in the Linwood Islamic Center, there were 51 people killed and 40 were injured. At that day, that following Sunday, I got up in our church and I announced that because of that shooting, we need to go to a mosque and visit with people to stand in solidarity with them. So the following Friday, 40 people from our Catholic church carpooled to the local mosque near us, and we spent some time with them in prayer on their regular Friday Jummah prayer. So then, unbelievable, about a month later, on April 21st, 2019, it was Easter Sunday, some terrorists shot up some Catholic churches in Sri Lanka. And unbeknownst to us, the following Sunday, 20 people from the mosque showed up at our Catholic church and said, you came and visited us when our churches were attacked in New Zealand. We would like to come and visit with you today. So they came to us on a Sunday and they said, we have no idea how you pray and what your Sunday service is about, but we'd like to be with you. So they came in and we introduced them to the whole congregation, and they sat with us during our prayer service to be a part of what our prayer was together that day. So it's an important part of relationship building that we reach out beyond what our normal boundaries usually keep us behind. We have to go beyond our boundaries, the boundaries of us as a Catholic Church. We have to go beyond those boundaries to say there are other people out there that are hurting and facing discrimination or bullying or fear, and we have to go and stand with them because it's an important part of our relationship building in our religious tradition and in our city. And at the same time, when we've done some of those visits, some of the parents of our church have told us, we're so glad you're doing this. We're so glad because we want our children to learn about mosques and synagogues and temples. We don't want them to grow up not knowing that. And so they always bring their children along, their teenagers along, to see and learn and experience what other people have encountered along the way. And it's a great way of developing a broader perspective of religious understanding, not just Catholic religious understanding, but a broader perspective of religious understanding that we can share with each other and learn from each other. Because what the children see on, like I said, on television or media doesn't always give them the true story. And we like to be able to give them the true story. We got together, we have a Catholic school on our property known as Cardinal Sheehan School. And we talked in our church about getting connected to the Muslim community. And so we met with our Catholic school, met with the Al-Rahma school, a Muslim school in the other town. And we had our teachers come together to see how we could work with our students and have them get to know each other. And one of the things that we did was we talked about how we could do that. Pope Francis wrote an encyclical on how to care for the earth and how to care for the poor. And when we were talking with the Muslim teachers, with the Catholic teachers, we said, how are we going to get our students from both of our schools to come together? And one of the Catholic teachers said, well, why don't we use the Pope's most recent document on care for the poor and care for the earth? And the Muslim teachers all said, that's a great idea. We read that document. I said, you read the Pope's document? They said, yes, we love that document. That's really important for us. So we came together over that document, care for the poor and care for the earth. And on one instance, we went to the Al-Rahma school with our students and the Muslim students, and we made sandwiches for the local soup kitchen. And the Muslim students all said to the Catholic students, now don't seal the sandwich bag. So they all had to put messages in the sandwich bag, messages that said, I love you, I hope you're going to be safe tonight. And we would give those sandwiches out to the homeless. So some of the leaders from both groups took them down to the local soup kitchen the next day. So we really work on having our youth be involved in some of these activities because it's a great way for us to connect them again to a world beyond their world. And about a month later at the church that I'm at, St. Matthew, we had a gathering about the visit to the Muslim school. We had a Catholic girl and a Muslim girl. We asked them to get up and tell what their experience was like. And they both got up and said, well, initially we were a little afraid to get to know each other because we didn't know what she was like. And then the Muslim girl said, but you know what? I found out that she likes basketball. And the Catholic girl said, and I found out that we both listen to the same rappers. So all of a sudden, the distance that being Muslim and Catholic brings to people, all of a sudden it falls apart, and you have kids being kids, and you have teenagers being teenagers, and you have them talking to each other and getting to know each other beyond what they would normally do. So being able to do those kind of things has really been an important part of our work. And we also had people in the church from 45 different countries, and that's why we started our immigration center. And so at our immigration center, we always told people that when you come here, this is a safe place. And you can tell your story any way you want to tell your story. We will help you get through whatever you're facing. And as Stephanie mentioned, we also had a gay and lesbian outreach group in our church. We would tell people the same thing. This is a safe place. You can tell your story any way you'd like, and we will help you get through whatever your struggles may be. So these kind of opportunities we've taken advantage of. Now, I work with a local community organization called BUILD, B-U-I-L-D, and BUILD has a violence interruption committee, and I'm on the violence interruption committee. And the violence interruption committee goes around to elementary schools, Catholic elementary schools, and public elementary schools. And we had in our own city about all the violence, and we know about the violence, but we also discovered that the politicians talk about the violence, pastors talk about the violence, but we haven't heard the kids talk about the violence. So we would take our violence interruption committee around to the elementary schools and ask the youth about the violence, what they think, how they heard, how they experience it. And some of the things they said were, we asked them, why is there violence? And some of the youth said, the city has a minority population, therefore others don't take the violence seriously. They also said some police officers are abusive. Some people don't watch the news and are not informed. And some parents have to teach their children how to act with the police. Now, some of you probably know that African-American parents have to teach their young teenage men caution when they're driving and they get stopped by the police. And we've talked about that in church with our families and helping the young people to recognize the necessity of that. But one of the interesting things in our church, we also have a number of African families, and some of the African parents came to me and said, we're so glad we're not in the African American community because they have to tell their children about being stopped by the police, and we don't because we're African. I said, no, don't think that way, because the police don't ask whether you're African American or African. The police just see that you're Black, and that's why you get stopped. And so we had to do a whole kind of education for parents, some of the African parents, around that issue, so they'd be able to address the issue with their children if they were old enough to drive or were getting stopped by the police. So we've had some positive aspects in trying to address some of these current issues in our world and trying to make sure our youth know that, and our youth are facing up to the issues that they need to face, along with helping the parents to do that too. So when we've worked with the youth and worked with the parents, we find that there's a positive respect and a positive outcome that comes from that, and it's an important part of our way of dealing with our communities. So through that, it's been an opportune time for us to kind of learn from the youth and have them teach us and have us teach them about how this whole experience takes place. So I'm really appreciative of the work that's been going on that I've heard about today from Ms. Abdallah and Mr. Eaton, and I'm glad that in my place that I'm even distant from you, that we have a common closeness of intimacy on the work that we do. Even though we are at a distance, we are doing a common groundwork, and I'm very grateful for that. And thank you for your presentations today.